My name is Jesse Wente. I'm the head of TIFF Cinematheque, and I'm here to talk about the movie Near Dark, which kicks off our Kathryn Bigelow retrospective. The barroom scene, I think, is a very clear, direct reference to the Western iconography of Near Dark.
Well, I'll be goddamn. Shit kicker heaven.
It opens with that great pool break, but I think key to the Western iconography is the swinging door that bursts open. And then you get Bill Paxton verbalizing what we're seeing, which is that we've landed in shit kicker heaven. And so the idea that we're very much in a Western milieu is established right away. He saddles right up to the bar, knocks over the drink, a classic Western offense that would typically lead to a duel or some sort of gunfight, usually with the bad guy at this point in the movie winning, which is exactly what happens. This is a scene without the bloodletting, or at least the bloodletting from fangs, that could very well sit in any number of classic Western movies of the last 100 years.
Hey, ever tell you the one about Buffalo Bill? Oh, hell, you're all right. Go on, give him another one.
The pacing of the scene, I think, is in rhythm to the music. So I think the music plays into the pacing. And Bigelow was very clearly had very distinct ideas around the soundtrack and the score and how this would be paced. But I think the key to why this scene takes so long is that we as the audience, this is our moment to actually fully come into understanding of the power, the depravity of this family, where this is their display of what they're willing to do. And we have to understand that these are very old beans. Jesse, the Lance Henriksen character, wears a Confederate flag in the inside of his coat because, as he says, he fought for the South in the film. And so this is a scene they are very used to. One can only imagine when we're watching this how often they've gone into a bar or a restaurant and told them, I only need a few seconds of your time, which is exactly how long you have to live.
I'm trying to show the boys something.
Bill Paxton ad-libbed many of the lines, particularly the ones most fans now think of, finger licking good, or I don't like them when they're not shaved. And I think when you have a performance like that occurring as a director, I think it shows great instinct to not worry. Let the pacing take care of itself. So you've got performers who are as dialed in on their characters as they will have been throughout the entire production.
Just the glass.
Just the glass?
The glass.
So Near Dark was not a huge success or critically acclaimed upon its release. The biggest thing it did for Kathryn Bigelow was prove that she could direct a picture by herself. And I think you can already see her affinity for action sequences and violence. Directing violence is a great skill, and not all directors do it well. In fact, few directors, even those famous for making action movies, do it well. Bigelow, I think, is one of those that does it extraordinarily well. This scene shows her remarkable confidence even at such a young age, and her command, I think, of the space and the timing. If this movie was made today, this scene probably occurs in less than 5 minutes and is probably edited in a totally different way. This scene is meaningful and more impactful because of the way it's shot and because of the time given to the story elements as well as the stylistic aesthetic elements that are in the scene than most movies would dare to today. The cinematographer on Near Dark was Adam Greenberg, who was sort of the indie darling of cinematographers at the time. He perhaps most famously had shot Terminator for James Cameron. And if you actually look at these two pictures side by side, the Terminator and Near Dark, there's some great similarities in terms of how they're shot. What I love about Greenberg, especially in this scene, this was an entirely constructed set. So they built this. This was not a pre-existing house. They built this to spec. As a cinematographer, Greenberg has never been caught up with being realistic in his lighting. He is unconcerned with having sensible sources of light. And when it comes to the way Henriksen is lit in this scene, you can see that often. There's the great overhead lighting shot with the fan blade that spins. There's the moment the song turns to Fever and Henriksen stands by the door and he's bathed in the red neon light. Red is the prominent color in the scene, of course, connection to the blood. You see red all the time, along with purples and blues, I think all references to plasma and blood. And so you have this incredible sort of color scheme and lighting all occurring within this very closed world of this scene. And I think Greenberg deserves an enormous amount of credit for the look of this entire film, which I think is extraordinary. But also in particular, I think some of his best work is in the scene. Just bravura filmmaking.
Hey, you look like 40 miles of rough road. Why don't you sit this one out?
Sitting here now in 2017, I can't help but think that Near Dark's still the single best modern vampire movie I've ever seen. I still think it literally swallows whole any Twilight movie, and I think virtually any of the other sort of modern incarnations or imaginings of a vampire movie. I think this one is grittier and more stylish than really any of those pictures.
You having a little trouble with your hog leg there?